Maya Johnson's fingers trembled as she clutched the blood-stained phone, desperately trying to upload the video before they found her. Outside, sirens wailed closer. The footage showed everything. Officer Sullivan's rage-twisted face, his baton, swinging down, her sister Zora crumpling to the pavement. 3 million views in 20 minutes. The police chief's panicked calls flooding her voicemail. The governor demanding a meeting. But they didn't know what Maya had discovered buried. In Sullivan's personnel file, evidence that would bring down the entire Oakland Police Department. And now, they were coming for her. Would she survive long enough to expose the truth? Before we begin this shocking story, let me know where you're watching from, and if you believe in standing up for justice, hit that like and subscribe button to stay updated on more eye-opening stories of courage against corruption. It started as a perfectly ordinary Thursday afternoon. Maya Johnson, 32 years old and one of Oakland's rising star attorneys, was driving her younger sister Zora to the most important interview of her life. At 24, Zora was in her final year of medical school, and this residency placement at Highland Hospital would fulfill her childhood dream of serving the community that raised them. The sisters chatted excitedly, mapping out their celebration plans for after the interview. Neither could have imagined how drastically their lives would change in the next 15 minutes. Maya carefully navigated the familiar streets of their childhood neighborhood, slowing completely at each stop sign despite being nervous about the time. That's why she was confused when flashing lights appeared in her rearview mirror. An Oakland Police Department cruiser was signaling her to pull over. Maya immediately complied, pulling to the curb and placing both hands visibly on the steering wheel as their father had taught them from a young age. Zora tensed beside her, interview portfolio clutched tightly against her chest. Officer Rick Sullivan approached with his hand already resting on his holstered weapon, his face set in a hard scowl that made Maya's stomach tighten. Without preamble or greeting, he barked, "License and registration, now." Maya maintained her professional composure, the same she used in high-pressure courtrooms. "Good afternoon, officer. May I ask why we've been pulled over?" Sullivan's face darkened. "You ran that stop sign back there. I don't have time for games. ID. Now." Maya knew with absolute certainty she'd made a full stop. She'd been especially careful driving Zora today, but she reached slowly for her purse. "I'm going to get my wallet from my bag, officer." Before she could retrieve it, Sullivan was already shouting, "Both of you, out of the vehicle, now!" The sudden escalation shocked both sisters. "Officer, I was just reaching for my ID as requested," Maya explained calmly. "There's really no need to." Sullivan yanked open the passenger door and grabbed Zora's arm, dragging her roughly from the vehicle. "I said out!" Zora's portfolio scattered across the pavement, her carefully prepared medical research fluttering into the street. "Please, my interview materials," she cried. Maya immediately grabbed her phone and began recording as she hurried out of the car. "Officer, this is completely unnecessary. We've done nothing wrong." What happened next occurred so quickly Maya could barely process it. As Zora bent to gather her papers, Sullivan shoved her hard. When she stumbled and raised her arm defensively, he yanked out his baton. "She's resisting!" he shouted, though Zora was clearly just trying to protect her face. The baton came down with sickening force on Zora's raised arm. The crack of breaking bone was audible even over Zora's scream of pain. Maya lunged forward, still recording. "Stop! She's not resisting, you're hurting her!" Sullivan whirled toward Maya, rage distorting his features. "Drop the phone! Drop it now!" When Maya continued recording, he slammed her against the car with stunning force, her head bouncing off the metal frame. Stars exploded in her vision, but she managed to keep her grip on the phone. Just then, a teenager across the street shouted, "Hey, I'm recording this too!" The boy held his phone high, capturing the entire scene. Sullivan froze momentarily, suddenly aware of the multiple witnesses. His demeanor shifted instantly, becoming eerily professional. "You're both under arrest for resisting an officer and assaulting an officer." Neither sister had done either. As Sullivan called for backup and roughly handcuffed them both, Maya managed to slide her phone into a hidden compartment in her purse she used for sensitive client documents. Zora sobbed quietly, her wrist bent at an unnatural angle, while Maya whispered reassurances she didn't believe. "It'll be okay. The truth will come out." As they were loaded into separate patrol cars, Maya caught the teenager's eye. The boy nodded solemnly, holding up his phone to show he still had the video. It was their only hope now. The Oakland Police Department's central station buzzed with activity, but Maya and Zora found themselves isolated in separate processing rooms for hours. Maya's requests to call an attorney were repeatedly ignored, despite her clearly stating her rights. Zora's pleas for medical attention for her visibly broken wrist went unheeded as officers walked past, deliberately averting their eyes from her injury. "Water? Medical attention? Anything?" Zora asked a passing female officer who simply shrugged and continued walking. When Captain Marcus Henley finally entered Maya's room, his imposing 6'4" frame seemed to suck all the oxygen from the space. He dropped a folder on the table with deliberate slowness. "Counselor Johnson, you've created quite a situation for yourself and your sister today." Maya straightened despite her pounding headache. "My sister needs medical attention immediately. Officer Sullivan used excessive force during an unlawful stop and arrest. We've done nothing wrong." Henley's laugh held no humor. "That's not how Officer Sullivan reports it. He says you both became combative when asked for identification, and your sister attempted to strike him." Maya's blood boiled. "That's a complete fabrication. There's video evidence." Henley leaned forward, his voice dropping to a menacing whisper. "Listen carefully. Drop this now. No complaint, no allegations. We process you for the minor charges. You pay a fine. Everyone moves on. Push this, and things get very unpleasant for you both. Your fancy law career, your sister's medical school dreams." He let the threat hang unfinished. 6 excruciating hours after their arrest, Maya's law firm partner finally located them and posted bail. By then, Zora's wrist had swollen dramatically, her fingers tingling from nerve compression. The booking officer handed Maya a property receipt, with a smirk. "Your vehicle's been impounded. Retrieval fee is $750 plus $100 daily storage." Outside the station, Maya's senior partner Richard Coleman ushered them into his Tesla. Instead of outrage at their treatment, his first words were, "The firm is concerned about the publicity, Maya. Watkins and Coleman represent several city contracts. This could be problematic." Maya stared at him in disbelief as he drove them to the emergency room. While waiting for Zora's treatment, Maya's phone exploded with notifications. The teenager's video had gone viral. 3 million views and climbing. And Justice for Johnson's sisters was trending. For a moment, Maya felt hope. Then she saw the Oakland PD's official statement. "The individuals in question have a history of traffic violations and confrontations with law enforcement. They'd pulled up every parking ticket, every minor violation either sister had ever received, all resolved years ago, to paint them as chronic troublemakers." Local news anchors were already using phrases like "allegedly assaulted" and "reportedly resisted," giving equal weight to Sullivan's obvious lies. Maya's firm issued a tepid statement, awaiting all facts before commenting. While still in the Tapicao hospital waiting room, Zora received an email from the residency program director. "In light of recent events, your application status is under review." The system was already working to silence them, to make them disappear. Maya watched her sister's face crumple as her dream slipped away over something that had never happened. In that moment, Maya made a decision. They wouldn't be silenced. They wouldn't disappear. If the system wanted a fight, she would give them one they'd never forget. Can you imagine discovering that the people sworn to protect and serve are the very ones targeting you? That's exactly what Maya Johnson faced as she began digging into Officer Sullivan's past. After retrieving her hidden phone with its crucial video evidence, Maya compared it to the viral footage. Her video captured damning details the bystanders missed. Sullivan's unprovoked aggression, his explicit threats, and most importantly, clear audio of him muttering racial slurs as he slammed her against the car. But this was just the beginning of what Maya would uncover. Have you ever wondered how many bad cops get away with abuse simply because the system protects them? If you believe no one should be above the law, comment number 1 right now. And if you think officers like Sullivan deserve to keep their badge, comment number 2. Also, hit that like button if you believe in standing up against injustice, no matter how powerful your opponents are. Using her legal connections, Maya contacted former classmate and criminal defense attorney Vanessa Rodriguez, who had defended numerous clients against Oakland PD. Sullivan. Oh, I know that name well, Vanessa said grimly, pulling up a folder on her laptop. At least 8 excessive force complaints in 5 years, all mysteriously disappeared. The pattern was unmistakable. Sullivan specifically targeted black women during traffic stops. Maya found 3 cases with nearly identical circumstances. Single women driving alone, pulled over for minor or non-existent infractions, then brutally assaulted when they questioned the stop. All 3 victims had been pressured into silence through threats, intimidation, or manufactured charges. One woman lost custody of her children after Sullivan planted evidence in her car. Another lost her job after multiple harassing visits from police to her workplace. The 3rd woman simply disappeared from Oakland entirely. Armed with this evidence, Maya filed a formal complaint with Internal Affairs, meticulously documenting Sullivan's pattern of abuse and Captain Henley's role in concealing it. 2 days later, she received an anonymous call from Officer Diane Reynolds of Internal Affairs. "They're burying your complaint," Reynolds whispered. "Henley and Sullivan are protected. Be careful, they play dirty." How right Reynolds was. That night, Maya returned to her apartment to find the door slightly ajar. Inside, nothing appeared to be stolen, but every drawer had been searched, every file rifled through. The message was clear. "We can get to you anytime." The threatening calls began the next day. Unknown numbers, voices disguised, but threats explicit. Drop the complaint or join those other women who tried to fight back. Maya installed security cameras in her apartment that night. She began documenting everything, photographing her car each morning to detect tampering, recording every interaction with police, backing up evidence to secure cloud servers only she could access. Through careful investigation, Maya discovered something even more disturbing. Sullivan, Henley, and at least 12 other officers belonged to a private group they called the Shield. Officers dedicated to protecting each other from consequences, no matter how severe the misconduct. Their text messages, obtained through a sympathetic IT worker at the department, revealed how they coordinated testimonies, tampered with evidence, and intimidated witnesses. But how far would they go to protect their own? And could one determined woman stand against a corrupt system with tentacles reaching into every aspect of city governance? Would Maya become another silenced victim? Or would she be the one to finally break the blue wall of silence? Stay tuned for what happens next in this shocking true story. Have you ever faced intimidation for standing up for what's right? Share your experience in the comments below. And if you want to see these corrupt officers brought to justice, subscribe now to follow Maya's fight against a system designed to break her. The morning Maya's evidence hit the local news, Oakland erupted. Protesters gathered outside police headquarters, demanding Sullivan's immediate termination and Captain Henley's resignation. Maya stood firm before a forest of microphones and cameras, her voice unwavering as she detailed the systematic abuse and cover-up. Beside her, Zora's arm in a blue cast served as a silent testament to police brutality, but the system fought back with terrifying force. The Oakland Police Officers Association released a statement defending Sullivan. Officer Sullivan is a decorated veteran with an exemplary record who feared for his safety during a routine traffic stop that escalated due to the suspect's non-compliance. Sullivan himself appeared on conservative news outlets, portraying himself as the victim of a political witch hunt by anti-police activists. His attorney emphasized Maya's role at a firm that had previously represented Black Lives Matter protesters, implying a vendetta. The threats intensified, Maya's email filled with graphic death threats. "We know where you sleep," read a letter delivered to her apartment, containing photos taken through her bedroom window. When Zora checked her student email, she found a formal letter from the medical school dean. "Due to serious character concerns raised by your recent arrest and the disruption your continued presence would cause, your placement in the program has been terminated, effective immediately. 3 years of perfect grades, glowing recommendations, and dedicated service to the community erased by a false arrest. That same day, Maya's law firm placed her on temporary administrative leave. Richard Coleman avoided her eyes as he delivered the news. "It's nothing personal, Maya. The firm has to consider its reputation and client relationships. She was being sacrificed to protect police contracts." Maya refused to be silenced. She accepted an invitation to appear on a national news program, bringing Zora and their evidence. The interview went viral, generating support from across the country. But the backlash was equally swift. Sullivan's wife, Teresa, appeared on competing networks with their 2 young children, tearfully describing how her loving husband was being destroyed by lies. Photos from Maya's college years surfaced in tabloids with misleading headlines suggesting she had a wild past and history of making false accusations. A routine college disciplinary hearing where she'd reported a professor's inappropriate behavior was twisted into a narrative that she frequently cried wolf. Concerned for their safety, Maya and Zora moved in with their grandmother, Eloise Johnson, in her small house in East Oakland. But even this sanctuary was violated when they awoke one morning to find racial slurs spray-painted across the front of the house, the windows smashed, and a crude drawing of a gun on the mailbox. 82-year-old Eloise stood on her porch, spine straight as steel despite her trembling hands, and faced the news cameras that gathered. "My granddaughters are telling the truth. This intimidation only proves they're afraid of that truth coming out." As she spoke, Maya noticed an unmarked police car slowly cruising past, the driver watching intently. That night, as they cleaned the last of the graffiti, Zora whispered, "Maybe we should stop, Maya. They'll destroy us, Grandma, too." Maya took her sister's hands. "If we stop, Sullivan keeps his badge. He'll hurt someone else, someone without our resources or platform. I can't live with that." What Maya couldn't tell her sister was that she'd discovered 2 of Sullivan's previous victims had died under suspicious circumstances after initially agreeing to testify against him. Car accident for one, apparent suicide for another. Both cases quickly closed with minimal investigation. The stakes weren't just their careers or reputations anymore. They were fighting for their lives against an enemy with a badge, a gun, and the full protection of a corrupt system. And the worst was yet to come. The protest movement supporting Maya and Zora grew daily. What began as a small group outside police headquarters swelled into thousands marching through downtown Oakland, carrying signs reading, "Justice for the Johnson Sisters," and "Defund Corrupt Police." Local activist Jasmine Torres organized community meetings, fundraisers for legal expenses, and social media campaigns that kept the story in the national spotlight. Maya found herself becoming the reluctant face of a movement larger than her personal fight. "This isn't just about me and Zora," she told the crowd at a rally. "This is about every person who's been beaten, intimidated, or silenced by those sworn to protect them." Through Jasmine, Maya received an unexpected message. Officer Terrence Jackson wanted to meet privately. Jackson, a 15-year veteran of the Oakland PD and one of the few black officers in the department, had witnessed the corruption firsthand, but had remained silent to protect his career and pension. "I can't sleep anymore," Jackson confessed in the back room of a church miles from his precinct. "I joined to make a difference, but I've become part of the problem by staying silent." His hands trembled as he passed Maya a flash drive. "This has internal documentation going back 5 years. The Shield isn't just a few bad officers. It's a systematic operation with protection from the highest levels." The files contained performance reviews altered to remove misconduct mentions, body cam footage mysteriously corrupted during incidents of excessive force, and witness statements that disappeared from official records. Most damning were text messages showing Captain Henley instructing officers how to write reports to justify use of force against Black and Latino civilians. Maya's law partner and mentor, Richard Coleman, unexpectedly called the next day. "The Bowen firm has reconsidered your situation," he said, his voice unusually warm. "We want to support you, Maya. Full resources, investigators, whatever you need." After weeks of isolation, the support felt like rainfall in a drought. Coleman arranged for top private investigators, secured friendly media coverage, and even convinced several major clients to issue statements supporting police accountability. Maya buried herself in preparation for the upcoming departmental hearing, where Sullivan would face internal review. 3 days before the hearing, Officer Jackson was arrested during a traffic stop. Police claimed they found cocaine in his car. His spotless 20-year record meant nothing as he was paraded before news cameras in handcuffs, his career and credibility destroyed. When Maya arrived at Coleman's office to discuss strategy, his demeanor had completely changed. The police. Union representatives reached out with an offer, he said without meeting her eyes. If you drop the complaint, retract your statements about systematic racism, they'll ensure all charges against you and Zora are dropped. Your position at the firm will be fully restored. Zora can reapply to medical school with the firm's recommendation. Maya stared at him in disbelief. You want me to lie? To let them get away with this? Coleman's expression hardened. Be realistic, Maya. You're fighting an entire system. Look what happened to Jackson. Today you're a hero. Tomorrow they'll make you a criminal. Take the deal while it's available. The betrayal cut deep, but not as deep as what Maya discovered next. Phone records obtained through a court order revealed Coleman had been in regular contact with Captain Henley for weeks. He'd been feeding the police information about her strategy, witness list, and evidence. The mentor she trusted had been working against her the entire time. That night, Maya received a call from the mayor's chief of staff. The mayor would like to meet privately to discuss a resolution that works for everyone, the aide said smoothly. The city is prepared to offer a substantial settlement. 7 figures, all charges dropped, plus a private apology. Maya recognized the offer for what it was: hush money. They wanted to make the problem disappear quietly, with no accountability, no systemic change. Just another victim silenced with a check and an NDA. She declined. The community support continued to grow despite the setbacks. Protests spread to neighboring cities. National civil rights organizations issued statements supporting Maya and Zora. But as public pressure mounted, Maya knew the system would escalate its retaliation. She just didn't realize how far they would go to destroy her. The morning news hit Maya like a physical blow. District Attorney William Kovach, a longtime ally of the police union, announced a formal investigation into Maya Johnson for alleged witness tampering and filing false statements. No one is above the law, Kovach declared self-righteously to assembled reporters. Badge or no badge, we will pursue justice without fear or favor. The investigation was a transparent attempt to discredit Maya and distract from Sullivan's misconduct. But it carried real consequences: potential disbarment, criminal charges, and the destruction of her professional reputation. Maya had barely processed this news when her grandmother called, voice shaking with fear and outrage. They're here, Maya. Police everywhere with some kind of warrant. Maya broke every speed limit racing to her grandmother's home, arriving to find 6 police cruisers surrounding the small house. Officers in tactical gear were systematically tearing through Eloise's home of 40 years, upending furniture, pulling books from shelves, and dumping out drawers. Captain Henley stood supervising, a satisfied smile playing at his lips. We received an anonymous tip about stolen evidence being hidden here, he explained when Maya demanded to see the warrant. The document, signed by a judge known for his police connections, authorized a comprehensive search for any and all evidence related to ongoing investigations. It was deliberately vague, giving officers license to ransack the entire property. Eloise sat on the front steps, her blood pressure medication confiscated as potential evidence, watching as family photos were tossed aside and heirloom furniture damaged. The message was brutally clear. Everyone Maya loved was a target. The intimidation campaign intensified. Zora reported unmarked police cars following her everywhere. When she tried to apply for positions at hospitals in neighboring cities, she discovered her reputation had somehow preceded her, doors closing before she could even interview. Journalist Elijah Washington, who had been covering the case for the Oakland Tribune, arrived at his office to find it completely ransacked. His research on police misconduct stolen, computer hard drives missing. The police report classified it as a random burglary, despite nothing of monetary value being taken. When Maya attempted to pay Elijah's legal team, she discovered her bank accounts had been frozen due to an investigation into suspicious financial activity. Her credit cards were declined, loans called in, and professional insurance suspended. With her financial resources cut off, maintaining her legal fight became exponentially harder. Meanwhile, Officer Sullivan gave his first public interview on a nationally syndicated talk show. Presented as a dedicated family man and public servant, he wept as he described the devastating toll the false accusations had taken on his family. The host never questioned the video evidence or pattern of complaints, instead focusing on Sullivan's military service and community volunteering. The Oakland Police Department announced Sullivan would remain on paid administrative leave until the investigation concluded, effectively giving him a paid vacation while still receiving full benefits and support. Maya discovered her phones were tapped when a private conversation with a potential witness appeared word for word in a police filing. Her emails showed signs of being accessed, her car repeatedly vandalized. Captain Henley publicly accused Maya of conducting a personal vendetta against the department, suggesting she was exploiting the situation to advance a political agenda. He hinted at troubling information about her past that would soon come to light. Professional complaints were filed against Maya with the California Bar Association by anonymous sources alleging ethical violations. Each required a formal response, draining her time and limited resources. The pressure became so intense that Maya and Zora began sleeping in different locations each night, never telling anyone where they would be, using burner phones to communicate. "They're trying to break us," Zora observed as they met in a 24-hour diner at 3 in the morning. "The only time they felt safe enough to speak freely. They want us scared, isolated, and discredited." Maya squeezed her sister's hand. "They've done this before and succeeded. They're not prepared for someone who fights back with their own tactics." What Maya didn't say was that she was running, out of options. Each day brought new attacks, new obstacles. But she couldn't show weakness, couldn't let Zora see her fear. Because the truth was, Maya was terrified, not just for herself, but for everyone who had supported them. How many lives would be destroyed before this was over? And was justice worth such a devastating cost? Have you ever had that one moment when everything suddenly changes? When the truth hits you like a thunderbolt, revealing something far worse than you imagined? That's what happened to Maya Johnson when a plain manila envelope arrived at her temporary hideout with no return address. Inside was Officer Rick Sullivan's complete, unredacted personnel file, the genuine one, not the sanitized version released to the public. What Maya discovered inside left her physically ill. If you believe everyone deserves to know the truth about those who abuse power, hit that like button right now. And if you think police officers who repeatedly break the law should be held accountable, comment number 1 below. Or if you believe the system should protect officers no matter what, comment number 2. Don't forget to subscribe to follow this shocking story to its conclusion. The personnel file revealed Sullivan had been involved in 3 shootings of unarmed black civilians, all ruled justified after investigations personally overseen by Captain Henley. Complaints filed against Sullivan showed a clear escalation pattern: verbal abuse leading to physical intimidation, then to assault, and finally to deadly force. Each incident had been systematically buried, witnesses pressured into changing statements, evidence lost or altered. But who had sent the file? The anonymous package included a sticky note with a single word: justice. Maya immediately created digital copies, storing them on encrypted drives hidden throughout the city. She sent copies to trusted journalists and activists with instructions to release them if anything happened to her or Zora. Just as she finished securing the evidence, Maya's phone rang with a blocked number. "Enjoying my personnel file, counselor?" Sullivan's voice sent ice through her veins. "You should be more careful about your sister. Highland Hospital has terrible security. Anyone could walk right in during her volunteer shift." The threat was unmistakable. Sullivan had somehow discovered that Zora had begun volunteering at the hospital's free clinic, trying to keep her medical skills sharp despite being expelled from her program. Maya rushed to warn Zora, sending evidence copies to multiple journalists en route. Her most trusted ally was Elijah Washington, whose investigative skills had already uncovered connections between Sullivan's SHIELD group and several judges who had dismissed police brutality cases. Together, they discovered something even more disturbing. A group text among 8 officers discussing how to handle the Johnson sisters permanently. Options discussed included planting drugs in their grandmother's home, fabricating evidence of financial crimes, and more disturbingly, arranging an accident. Maya never saw the black sedan that forced her off the road that night. She only remembered headlights suddenly blinding her, the steering wheel jerking from her hands as her car careened down an embankment, and the sickening crunch of metal as her world went black. She awoke in a hospital bed with a concussion, 3 broken ribs, and the news that her grandmother had been arrested on charges of obstruction of justice and evidence tampering. Most terrifying, Zora had gone to the police station to help their grandmother and had not been heard from since. No one at the station would acknowledge she had even been there, but security footage Elijah obtained from a nearby business clearly showed Zora entering the police station 26 hours ago. She had never come out. Have you ever felt completely helpless while someone you love is in danger? The system that should protect citizens had become the very threat Maya needed protection from. With her sister missing, her grandmother imprisoned, and her own body broken, would Maya finally be silenced? Or would this be the moment that galvanized her to fight harder than ever before? And just how deep did the corruption in Oakland go? Stay tuned for the next part of this shocking true story. If you're outraged by what's happening to the Johnson sisters, share this video to spread awareness. Remember, silence only protects the abusers. Your voice matters in the fight for justice. Maya checked herself out of the hospital against medical advice, her bandaged ribs screaming in protest with every movement. "My sister is missing," she insisted to the concerned doctor. "Every minute counts." 24 hours had passed since Zora was last seen entering the Oakland Police Department's Central Precinct. Maya had filed a missing persons report, but the same department responsible for Zora's disappearance would hardly prioritize finding her. Every call to the station received the same response: no record of Zora Johnson on premises. Maya's deepening fear was temporarily interrupted by an unexpected source. Officer Diane Reynolds from Internal Affairs called from a burner phone. "I can't be seen helping you," she said quickly. "But what they're doing isn't police work, it's criminal. I'll help you find your sister." Reynolds had once believed in the mission of Internal Affairs to hold officers accountable. Years of watching complaints buried and whistleblowers punished had left her disillusioned, but not yet defeated. Together, they reviewed the security footage showing Zora entering the station, but never leaving. "There's a blind spot in the camera coverage near the back entrance," Reynolds pointed out. "If they wanted to move someone unseen, that's where they'd do it." Reynolds accessed department vehicle logs through her credentials, discovering Antamuriata unmarked police transport had left through that exit 20 minutes after Zora's arrival. The destination listed was simply administrative transfer. Through carefully worded questions to unknowing desk officers, Reynolds discovered the existence of a facility in the industrial outskirts of Oakland. "It's unofficially called the Box," she explained grimly. "A holding place for people they want to keep off the books. Officially, it's a storage facility for department records." What Reynolds revealed next chilled Maya to her core. Within the department existed a group called the Cleansers, officers who took care of problems that couldn't be handled through official channels. Captain Henley was their leader, and Sullivan one of their most active members. "They started as a group to protect officers from complaints," Reynolds explained. "But they've evolved into something more dangerous. They believe they're above the law, that their badge gives them the right to be judge, jury, and sometimes executioner." Maya and Reynolds drove to the remote facility, a nondescript concrete building surrounded by barbed wire. When they approached the guardhouse, the officer immediately recognized Reynolds but was clearly suspicious of Maya. "No unauthorized access," he stated flatly. "Captain Henley's orders." They retreated to plan their next move, but before they could, Maya's phone chimed with a text from an unknown number. The message contained only a photo. Zora handcuffed to a metal pipe in a dimly lit room, her face bruised, but her eyes defiant. A second message followed. Evidence destroyed by midnight. Public retraction of all claims. Or sister joins the missing persons list permanently. Maya had until midnight, less than 6 hours, to surrender everything she'd fought for or lose. Her sister forever. With Reynolds' help, Maya reached out to the one person she'd never expected to ally with. District Attorney Sarah Chen. Chen had initially supported the police narrative, but recently her own 17-year-old son had been profiled and roughed up during a traffic stop. Despite her son's clean record and respectful compliance, officers had handcuffed him face down on the pavement. When Chen complained, she'd encountered the same blue wall of silence that had frustrated so many Oakland citizens. "I thought I understood how the system worked," Chen admitted when Maya showed her the evidence. "I was wrong. My position, my connections, none of it mattered once I questioned police conduct." Chen examined Sullivan's personnel file, the documented cover-ups and the photo of Zora. Her face hardened with resolve. "This ends now, not just for your sister, but for every person they've abused their power against." With Chen's legal authority supporting them, they prepared to breach the facility where they believed Zora was being held. But both women understood the risk. They were taking on not just corrupt individuals, but an entrenched system that had operated with impunity for years. If they failed, Zora wouldn't be the only one to disappear. As midnight approached, Maya made her decision. She would not be silenced, would not let fear win. "Let's go get my sister," she said, checking the secure cloud where she'd uploaded all her evidence, set to automatically release to every major news outlet if she didn't enter a passcode by morning. Whatever happened tonight, the truth would see daylight one way or another. Armed with a warrant authorized by District Attorney Chen and signed by Judge Michaela Washington, one of the few judges not connected to the Shield, Maya, Reynolds, and a team of state investigators approached the holding facility. The warrant authorized immediate search of the premises for illegally detained persons and seizure of all records related to unofficial detainments. "Oakland PD doesn't have jurisdiction here," the guard protested when presented with the document. "This is a private storage facility." "This facility is leased by the city of Oakland," Chen countered, "and we have probable cause to believe a citizen is being unlawfully detained inside." When the guard reached for his radio, State Investigator Marcus Dawson placed a hand over it. "That would constitute obstruction of justice. I suggest you cooperate fully." Inside, the facility was eerily quiet. Rows of filing cabinets lined sterile hallways, but something felt off about the setup. Reynolds noticed it first. "These files are all outdated," she said, examining a cabinet. "Nothing newer than 10 years ago. This isn't a working records facility." The basement level required a key card, which the guard reluctantly provided, after Chen threatened additional charges. What they found below shocked even Reynolds, who thought she understood the department's corruption. 6 small cells, each with restraint systems built into the walls. Evidence of recent occupancy was everywhere. Food wrappers, water bottles, a woman's hair tie that Maya recognized as Zora's. "They were holding people here," Dawson confirmed grimly. "Completely off the books." But Zora was gone. A transfer order on a desk provided the only clue, signed by Officer Sullivan just 3 hours earlier. The destination, unstated. Reynolds tried calling her contacts within the department, but found herself locked out of all systems. Her credentials had been revoked remotely. "They know we're here," she warned. Meanwhile, Sullivan had gone dark, not responding to department calls, not at home, his police vehicle's GPS disabled. In desperation, Maya turned to the most powerful tool available, social media. She live-streamed from the facility, showing the detention cells, explaining her sister's disappearance, and naming every officer involved. "My sister Zora Johnson is being held illegally by members of the Oakland Police Department," she stated directly to camera. "I believe her life is in danger. These officers have operated with impunity for years, disappearing people who stand against them." The live stream exploded, reaching hundreds of thousands within minutes. News vans began arriving outside the facility. As Maya continued documenting everything, her phone rang with an unknown number. Maya Johnson. I know where they took your sister? The voice was unfamiliar, male, nervous. Who is this? Just another cop who's sick of the corruption. The old police training facility in East Oakland. The one that was condemned after the earthquake. Sullivan took her there himself. But it's a trap. He knows you'll come. Why are you helping me? Maya asked. I joined to protect people. We're not all like them. The caller hung up. Maya shared the information with Chen and Reynolds. Both advised caution, believing it could indeed be a setup. We should wait for proper backup, Chen argued. Sullivan is unstable and armed. My sister might not have that time, Maya countered. She made a decision that would alter the course of everything. She would go to the abandoned facility, but not alone. Journalist Elijah Washington would accompany her, live streaming every moment, ensuring that whatever happened would be witnessed by thousands. As they approached the crumbling building, Mayor Franklin Williams was on television announcing Sullivan's immediate suspension and an independent investigation into the Oakland PD. Public pressure had finally forced official action, but Maya knew it was too little, too late for Zora. The abandoned training facility looked like something from a post-apocalyptic film. Cracked concrete, broken windows, faded police emblems still visible on crumbling walls. Maya spotted 4 unmarked police vehicles parked haphazardly behind the building. As she and Elijah approached the main entrance, a shot rang out. The bullet, embedding itself in the wall inches from Maya's head. That's close enough, Sullivan's voice echoed from inside. Just you, Johnson, come in alone or your sister dies right now. Maya locked eyes with Elijah, who nodded grimly, camera still rolling. Whatever happens, keep broadcasting, she whispered. As she stepped toward the entrance, hands raised, another shot fired, this one striking the ground at her feet. The message was clear. Sullivan wasn't stable, and this confrontation might end with multiple body bags. There's another way in, Elijah whispered, pulling Maya back from the entrance. When I covered the earthquake damage, I learned about a maintenance tunnel. It connects to the main building through the basement. Staying low and using abandoned vehicles for cover, they circled the facility. The unmarked entrance to the tunnel was partially collapsed but still passable. The darkness inside was absolute, illuminated only by their phone flashlights as they navigated through ankle-deep water and fallen debris. If Sullivan has other officers with him, we're walking into a death trap, Maya whispered. Elijah nodded grimly. But we're broadcasting everything. If anything happens to us, the whole world will know who's responsible. The tunnel opened into a musty basement filled with abandoned police equipment. A faint sound from above drew their attention. Someone crying out, then silence. Zora, Maya breathed, recognizing her sister's voice even through the concrete ceiling. They found a stairwell and climbed cautiously, Elijah's camera capturing every moment of their ascent. The building's interior was a maze of former classrooms and training areas. Following the intermittent sounds, they finally located the central gymnasium where Sullivan had made his base. Through a crack in the double doors, Maya could see her sister. Zora sat handcuffed to a support column, her face bruised but her expression defiant. Sullivan paced nearby, service weapon in hand, agitation evident in every movement. 2 other officers stood uncomfortably near the exits, clearly uncertain about their involvement in this increasingly illegal operation. He's unraveling, Maya whispered. We need to get those other officers to turn on him. Elijah positioned his phone to capture everything through the door crack while continuing to live stream. Maya took a deep breath and pushed open the doors. Sullivan, I'm here just like you wanted. Let my sister go. Sullivan whirled, gun trained instantly on Maya's chest. Finally decided to show up, drop any phones or recording devices and kick them away. Maya complied with empty hands raised. It's over, Sullivan. This place is surrounded. The mayor has already suspended you pending investigation. Let Zora go, and you might still be able to negotiate. Sullivan's laugh held no humor. You think I care about a suspension? This was never about keeping my job. His face contorted with hatred. You don't even remember me, do you, Counselor Johnson? 7 years ago, my first big drug bust, career-making case. And then you waltzed into court defending that dealer, tearing apart my evidence, making me look like a liar in front of everyone. Maya's mind raced back. State vs. Williams. A young black man charged with felony drug possession with intent to distribute. She'd proven the search was illegal, the evidence planted. Because it was. Marcus Williams was innocent, she said steadily. You planted that evidence because you needed an arrest. He was garbage, they all are. I was cleaning up the streets my way because the system is broken. Sullivan's voice rose hysterically. Then you and your holier-than-thou attitude ruined everything. Every time I tried to do my job after that, some criminal would say, I'm calling Maya Johnson. Your name became a get-out-of-jail-free card in every ghetto in Oakland. The two officers by the door exchanged uncomfortable glances as Sullivan's tirade became more explicitly racist. So this is personal revenge? Maya kept him talking, noticing Elijah had maneuvered to a position where he could film everything. You targeted me and my sister because I did my job as a defense attorney? I targeted you because someone needed to teach you your place, Sullivan snarled. You people think you can change the system. The system exists for a reason. Some people are animals who need to be caged, and some of us are the zookeepers. One of the officers by the door shifted uneasily. Sullivan, man, this has gone too far. We agreed to scare her, not whatever this is. Sullivan ignored him, focusing entirely on Maya. I've got nothing left to lose now. My career is over, either way. But I'm taking you with me. Poetic justice for all the criminals you've put back on the streets. As Sullivan raised his weapon, the gymnasium doors burst open. Captain Henley strode in, flanked by 4 uniformed officers. Sullivan, stand down immediately! For a moment, relief flooded through Maya. Despite everything, Henley was still a police captain stopping a rogue officer. Then she saw his eyes. Cold. Calculating. Not here to save her at all. You're making a mess, Rick, Henley said coolly. This isn't how we handle problems. Sullivan lowered his weapon slightly. Captain, you said you'd handle her. You promised. She'd back down. And you promised you'd follow protocol, Henley countered. Not kidnap a civilian and create a hostage situation that's currently being live-streamed to half the country. Sullivan's eyes widened in confusion, then darted to where Elijah stood partially hidden, phone still recording. Live-streamed? In Ike. That moment of distraction, Maya lunged toward her sister, putting herself between Zora and Sullivan's weapon. Henley smoothly drew his own gun, but instead of aiming at Maya, he pointed it at Sullivan. You've become a liability, Officer Sullivan. Sullivan's face registered shock, then bitter understanding. After everything I did for you, for the Shield, this is how it ends? The Shield protects those who follow orders, Henley replied coldly. You've gone rogue, endangered everything we've built. The department needs someone to blame for all this, and you've volunteered. Sullivan's expression transformed from betrayal to rage. If I'm going down, he snarled, I'm not going alone. He turned his gun toward Henley. Should I tell everyone about the Wilson case? The evidence you personally ordered destroyed, or maybe the Ramirez shooting where you coerced witnesses? How about the slush fund you maintain for officers who need certain problems to disappear? Henley's composed facade cracked as Sullivan continued exposing operation after operation, each more damning than the last. The officers in the room looked increasingly uncomfortable as their department's darkest secrets were laid bare on a live stream viewed by thousands. In the chaos that followed, Sullivan charged Henley, both men struggling for control of their weapons. Maya used the distraction to reach Zora, using a hairpin to work on the handcuffs. When the gunshot rang out, everyone froze. Captain Henley staggered backward, blood blooming across his chest. Sullivan stood over him, weapon raised, a manic gleam in his eyes. See what you made me do? He shouted at Maya. This is on you. Before he could fire again, Maya sprung forward using a self-defense technique she'd learned after too many threats from angry opposing counsel. Her elbow connected with Sullivan's throat, sending him gasping to his knees. His weapon clattered across the floor as the other officers finally moved in to restrain him. The national media swarmed Oakland in the days following what became known as the Blue Shield conspiracy. The footage from Elijah's livestream had been viewed by over 20 million people within hours, making it impossible for officials to control the narrative. Sullivan and 7 other officers were arrested on charges ranging from kidnapping and assault to conspiracy and civil rights violations. Captain Henley survived his gunshot wound, but faced a lengthy list of federal charges once he recovered. Mayor Williams, standing before a forest of microphones, announced a complete overhaul of the Oakland Police Department. "We will implement independent oversight, mandatory body cameras with civilian review, and zero tolerance for excessive force or racial profiling," he declared solemnly. The era of impunity is over. Zora was released from the hospital after Rios. Treatment for dehydration and minor injuries. Highland Hospital not only reinstated her residency placement, but issued a formal apology, along with a full scholarship. "Your courage exemplifies the commitment to ethics and justice we seek to instill in all our medical professionals," the dean's letter stated. Maya found herself thrust into a national spotlight as networks and organizations clamored for her perspective on police reform. Civil rights groups honored her with awards, law schools invited her to speak, and politicians sought photo opportunities with the woman who had exposed systemic corruption at great personal risk. Richard Coleman's law firm reached out with a contrite offer of partnership and substantial compensation. Maya declined without hesitation, instead using her settlement money from the city to establish Johnson Justice Initiative, a nonprofit dedicated to representing victims of police misconduct. Officer Reynolds was promoted to lead a new, strengthened internal affairs division with expanded powers and civilian oversight. "This department will earn back the community's trust," she promised at her swearing in. "Accountability isn't just a buzzword anymore, it's our primary mission." The investigation expanded beyond Oakland as evidence emerged that the Shield had connections to similar groups in police departments nationwide. A congressional hearing was scheduled to examine patterns of misconduct and cover-ups in law enforcement across the country. Sullivan, facing life imprisonment, accepted a plea deal, 20 years in exchange for testimony against other corrupt officers. His detailed accounts of evidence tampering, witness intimidation, and fabricated reports led to dozens more arrests and resignations. For a brief, heady moment, it felt like real change might be possible. Maya and Zora attended community celebrations, spoke at rallies, and cautiously began rebuilding their lives. Then Officer Reynolds called Maya late one night, her voice tense. "Sullivan is dead." Maya sat up straight. "What? How?" "Found hanged in his cell. They're calling it suicide." "And you don't believe that?" "He was in protective custody, monitored, 24/7. The surveillance footage from that time period is mysteriously corrupted. And Maya, that's not all. The evidence locker was breached last night. Several key items from the Shield cases are missing." A chill ran through Maya. "Who authorized access?" "That's just it. The log shows Captain Henley's credentials were used." "Henley is in the hospital under guard." "Exactly. Someone used his access codes. And Maya, he's gone too. Vanished from his hospital room sometime in the last 6 hours. The guards claim they never left their posts, saw nothing unusual." The implications were clear. The corruption went deeper than they had imagined, reaching people with the power to enter secure facilities, disable cameras, and make prisoners and evidence disappear. After hanging up, Maya noticed an unmarked envelope that had been slipped under her door. Inside was a single photograph, Maya and Zora at their grandmother's house earlier that day, clearly taken with a telephoto lens from a nearby building. On the back, a handwritten message. "This isn't over." The false victory crumbled like sand through her fingers. They had cut off one head of the Hydra, but many more remained, hidden in shadows, waiting to strike. 3 days after Sullivan's death, Maya received an encrypted file from Officer Jackson, who had been quietly released from custody when the drug charges against him fell apart under scrutiny. The file contained records that Captain Henley had, kept as insurance against betrayal, never imagining they would fall into outside hands. What Maya discovered transformed her understanding of the corruption they faced. The police brutality and cover-ups weren't random acts of racist officers. They were part of a systematic campaign of intimidation, targeting specific neighborhoods throughout Oakland. Maps showed areas where excessive force incidents clustered perfectly with planned real estate developments, neighborhoods where residents had been fighting eviction, and gentrification were precisely the areas where the SHIELD officers conducted most of their proactive policing. They were the muscle for developers, Maya explained to Zora as they reviewed the evidence, terrorizing communities until residents were willing to sell at rock-bottom prices and move away. The conspiracy reached far beyond the police department. Mayor Williams appeared in numerous emails discussing neighborhood pacification with developers. Several city council members received regular payments through shell companies. Judges who dismissed police brutality cases owned investment properties in the revitalized areas. The entire city power structure was implicated in what amounted to modern-day land theft, using police as enforcers. As Maya and her allies organized their evidence for federal investigators, strange events began occurring. The community activist who had organized the largest protests called Maya in tears. Someone had emailed her employer fabricated photos of her engaged in illegal activities, resulting in immediate termination. 3 witnesses who had given statements about Sullivan's misconduct publicly recanted, refusing to explain their sudden change of heart. When Maya visited one former witness, the woman whispered, "They showed me pictures of my children at school," before shutting the door in Maya's face. One night, Maya woke to the acrid smell of smoke. Her apartment building had been firebombed. The blaze specifically targeted at her unit. She escaped with nothing but her phone and the clothes on her back. All physical evidence she'd kept at home was destroyed. While staying in a hotel under an assumed name, Zora called with another disturbing discovery. As part of her renewed medical training, she had been reviewing patient records from individuals treated after police encounters. She found a pattern. Certain detainees had been subjected to experimental drug protocols without consent, disguised as routine care for injuries sustained during arrest. "It's like they were using these people as test subjects," Zora explained, her voice shaking. "All from the same neighborhoods the SHIELD targeted, all after encounters with the same officers." The next blow came from the state attorney general's office, announcing an investigation into Maya Johnson for evidence tampering and witness intimidation. The exact charges that had been proven false when leveled by local officials. It was clear the corruption reached to the state level, with powerful figures determined to discredit her by any means necessary. Running out of options and unsure who to trust, Maya made a desperate gamble. She requested a private meeting with Mayor Williams, ostensibly to discuss a settlement. In his office, surrounded by his advisors and security, she laid out everything she knew about his involvement. "You were Sullivan's boss's boss," she said calmly, watching his face. "The SHIELD operated with your knowledge and approval as the enforcement arm of your donor's development plans." Williams laughed dismissively. "That's quite an imagination you have, Ms. Johnson. Where's your proof?" Maya glanced down at her watch. By now, every major news outlet, the FBI, and the Department of Justice has received the complete file, including recordings of you discussing removal of undesirable elements from development zones with Ronald Perkins of Skyview Properties. The color drained from Williams' face. Maya hadn't been wearing a watch at all. It was a recording device provided by a sympathetic federal agent who had been building a racketeering case against city officials for months. Maya had become their star informant. The coordinated release of evidence across multiple platforms created a tsunami that even the most powerful figures couldn't contain. Federal authorities, unable to ignore the mountain of evidence and public outrage, finally intervened with a sweeping investigation. Within weeks, indictments came down against 32 individuals, including the mayor, 3 judges, and several state officials. The Johnson Justice Initiative expanded its mission, creating a nationwide network to support victims of similar conspiracies in other cities. Maya and Zora established a foundation to provide legal, medical, and housing assistance to families affected by police brutality and predatory development. At the federal sentencing hearing for Mayor Williams, Maya delivered a victim impact statement that was broadcast nationally. This case was never just about 2 sisters assaulted by a racist police officer, she told the hushed courtroom. It was about power using violence to silence communities. It was about treating certain neighborhoods and certain people as disposable for profit. The true crime was believing that some lives matter less than others. As she left the courthouse, a junior FBI agent handed her a thumb drive. "You should see this," he said quietly before disappearing into the crowd. The drive contained communications between major banking executives and federal housing officials discussing the Oakland model of urban renewal and plans to implement similar strategies in cities across the country. The final document was a memo referring to Maya specifically as a problem requiring permanent resolution. Standing in the sunlight on the courthouse steps, Maya realized the truth. What they had uncovered in Oakland was merely one tendril of a far larger organism. The victory they'd fought so hard for was real, but incomplete. The system they challenged was vaster and more insidious than they had imagined. "We've won a battle," she told reporters gathering around her. "But make no mistake, this isn't the end. It's barely the beginning." This story teaches us that systemic corruption often runs deeper than we initially perceive. Maya's fight wasn't just against one racist officer, but an entire interconnected system designed to protect power and profit at the expense of marginalized communities. It shows how institutions meant to protect citizens can become weapons against them when accountability disappears. The lesson here is threefold. First, true change requires extraordinary courage and persistence in the face of overwhelming opposition. Maya and Zora risked everything because principles mattered more than personal safety. Second, corruption rarely exists in isolation. It thrives in networks where multiple institutions protect each other. What appeared as simple police brutality was actually part of a sophisticated economic scheme targeting vulnerable neighborhoods. Third, victory against injustice is rarely complete or permanent. Every exposed conspiracy reveals deeper layers of corruption that require continued vigilance. The most important takeaway is that one person's refusal to be silenced can create ripples that eventually bring down even the most powerful systems. By documenting evidence, building alliances across traditional boundaries, and using strategic thinking rather than just righteous anger, Maya created change that seemed impossible. Real justice requires not just exposing individual bad actors, but reimagining and rebuilding the systems that allowed them to flourish in the first place. The fight against injustice is never truly finished. It requires constant attention and the courage to look beyond surface-level solutions. Has a story like this ever made you wonder what's happening in your own community? Have you, or someone you know, ever experienced discrimination from those in positions of power? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you believe in standing up for justice no matter the cost, hit that like button to show your support. Subscribe to follow more eye-opening stories about ordinary people facing extraordinary challenges and finding the courage to fight back. Share this video with someone who needs to understand how systemic racism operates beyond individual prejudice. Remember, silence only protects the abusers. Your voice matters in creating change. Thank you for listening to Maya and Zora's story. May it inspire you to question, to speak up, and to stand firm when faced with injustice in your own life. Together, we can build communities where justice isn't just an ideal, but a reality for everyone.